Welcome to Fitness Explained, the podcast. I'm your host, Mel Waller. I'm a third-year sport and exercise science student, and I have a passion for science and helping others create a balanced and healthy lifestyle through understanding the science behind health and fitness. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 5 of Fitness Explained, the podcast. I hope we are all having a great day so far. I have been having a pretty good one. The sun's been out. I went for a walk around the town with my dog, so that was nice. And so today we're going to be talking about timing, eating for optimum recovery and performance. So before we do that though, as always, an item, exercise, product, task or food I've been enjoying recently, / in the past week. Gonna sound a bit weird, but natural deodorant. I'm not someone who's like super invested into skincare and stuff. Like, I like to buy nice skincare and stuff, but it's not up there on the top of my list. However, I've done a little bit of research, not that much to be completely honest, on natural deodorants versus deodorants that we see like the clinical strength and ones that have stuff like aluminium in it, and I don't know, there's still debate around the topic, but I thought, it's not going to do me any harm having a natural deodorant, so I switched over. I've been using it for the last couple weeks now. It's been pretty good. At first, it didn't really work as well as I'd hoped, but after a few weeks, it gets better. And so when I'm training and stuff, if I wear it, it's fine. The one I've tried is the Sarah's Day one from Lebang, I think the brand is. It's pretty good. I like it. It's like the pot set one. Another reason I like it is that they're ceramic and you can reuse the packaging. So I hope to reuse the packaging, so ultimately create less waste. That's something that I feel really passionate about, is trying to create as minimal waste as I can in terms of the products that I use. So let's move on to the main topic of the podcast now. So, as I said before, this week we're going to be talking about timing your eating or consuming foods for optimum recovery and performance. So just a little bit of a disclaimer though before we talk about this, I'm mostly going to be referring to people who regularly train, and those training sessions are more than half an hour. So you mightn't get as much benefits from this episode as, say, if you are someone that trains like 2-3 times a week and those sessions are like 20 minutes to 30 minutes. This is probably going to benefit people that train upwards of 5 times a week, and each of those sessions are more than 30 minutes long. However, I think this could benefit everyone, but some more than others. So how I'm going to break down this main segment is I'm going to talk about pre-exercise, during exercise, and post-exercise, and then the various things that you can do in each of those phases in relation to exercise and how they will benefit your recovery and your performance. So first, let's go into pre-exercise and fasting. So this is most commonly done in the morning. It's a little bit easier to be fasted when you've just woken up versus, in the afternoon. That's common sense. And what we define fasted is just not having any food prior to the exercise or the bout, except you can have, it depends on who you talk to, but from what I've seen, it's plain coffee and plain tea or water do not count, and you're still fasted if you've had one of them prior to your bout of exercise. So, this is not the only way. This is just the most common from what I've seen. People exercising in the morning, fasted, and they've had, maybe just some water or a coffee prior to this. So personally, before I talk about the science, I'm not a massive fan of fasting before exercise. I don't feel great. I feel like a little bit nauseous if I haven't had just a little something to eat before exercising. Often what I'll do is, when I do train first thing in the morning, I will have, say, a small carbohydrate-based breakfast, and then I'll have the rest of my breakfast, which is more protein heavy, afterwards. So for an example, I'll have a piece of toast with Vegemite as prior to exercise, say half an hour or so prior to exercise, and then afterwards I'll finish my training, say with a protein shake and another 1 or 2 slices of bread or something else that's carbohydrate based. But the reason why someone would want to fast, and because feeling nauseous if you haven't eaten isn't the only way to react. I know that plenty of people do feel nauseous if they have had something to eat prior to exercising, and they do prefer exercising fasted. And it's all personal preference. When it comes down to it, I want you to do what you feel is best for you. So yeah, but why someone would want to do fasted exercising to optimize their performance is what was I saying again? Is because that's right. So the body relies on fat stores instead of the regular carbohydrate stores when you are exercising fasted. Because obviously you haven't eaten, so you're relying on the stores that you already have. And the benefit of doing this is the body takes longer to metabolize or use fats to create energy rather than carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are a lot easier for the body to break down to use it as energy instead of fats. And therefore, so when we do train fasted, our body uses fats. And so when we do train using fats, it improves our metabolism to break down fats and use it more efficiently and effectively than when we don't train fasted. So who this can help is particularly endurance-based athletes that compete, and not just compete, any endurance-based training persons, for lack of a better word, as it reduces the chance of glycogen, which is how we store. Oh, that was a great noise in the background. So glycogen, which is how carbs are stored in the body, and it reduces the chance of them depleting from the muscles, as we only have about 2 hours worth of carbs that we can possibly store within our body. So therefore, training fasted can be a great idea for endurance athletes in particular, but anyone can train fasted, and it's all personal preference, as I said. So the everyday person can benefit, but the type of athlete, if we're talking about athletes, it's endurance that benefit the most out of anyone, so versus someone like a sprinter, for example. And so there is other studies that go into showing how training fasted can help with insulin sensitivity and other health and performance benefits, but I don't really want to go into that because I want to focus purely on timing of eating and stuff like that. So, and how that impacts on performance. So yeah, anyway, moving on. So carbohydrates. So it's always a good idea to eat a meal 2 to 3 hours prior to training, and a snack that's carbohydrate heavy like a muesli bar or a banana an hour prior to training. So this is because training for the everyday person uses the aerobic glycolysis system, and sometimes you can have certain trainings that are anaerobic glycolysis system predominant, and this is where we train really high in speed and power and strength, so there's really fast, rapid movements, so that don't require oxygen. However, the aerobic versus anaerobic, so aerobic uses oxygen. So therefore, if the body is freshly stored with these carbs to rely on, it's a little bit easier to train because your carbohydrate stores are up there and you've got plenty of fuel to rely on. And then this also leads on to carbohydrate loading. I'm sure you've heard of it. Carbohydrate loading is only really important for endurance athletes as well, particularly before a competition. I wouldn't recommend carbohydrate loading for training. And the reason why is, as I said before, we've only got 2 hours of storage. So most people start like a diet plan about a week to 4 days prior to competition, where they increase their carbohydrate consumption to make sure that their body has plenty of carbs plenty of carbs stored, so that there's less likely of depleting carbohydrate stores, because that's what we see if you, I'm sure, or you might not have, but there's videos out there where you see marathon runners and they're completely collapsing towards the finishing, and that's mainly because it's called bonking. They've lost all their carbohydrate stores and their fat stores, and then they're just, just completely out of energy. So that's why we want to keep our carbohydrate levels up for when we're training endurance, so that we have plenty of energy to perform with. Now moving on to caffeine. It's something I have, most people have, to get out of bed, but it's also something that can help us with training. It can help with things from motor unit recruitment, which is how well our nerves switch on our muscle fibers. That's a very simplified way of saying it, through to central nervous system, by helping the central nervous system by inhibiting adenosine actions to promote fatigue. So that's basically what caffeine does, is it blocks the receptors that our tired chemicals, this is really simple way of explaining it, that prevent our tired chemicals from going into our brain, so it keeps us awake. So yeah, that's a really simple way of saying makes us less tired. It also decreases our rate of perceived exertion. So our rate of perceived exertion is how hard we think we're training. There's a few different scales from 6 to 20, but then there's also one from 1 to 10. So say you're going for a run and you're really pumping it out and you feel like you can't go much harder, and you're almost you're almost sprinting. That would be like a 9 out of 10 RPE, for example, from the 1 to 10 scale. And then it also can help us increase our performance in sports that aren't reaching maximum efforts. So sports like marathon running, but not sports like weightlifting or sprinting, because when you're weightlifting or sprinting, you're doing maximum efforts that can't go for very long. But marathon running, we're at a steady state for a really long period of time, which obviously do require a lot of efforts. Those sports are difficult. I'm not saying by any means that they aren't hard, but it's just that those athletes can sustain their performance, so steady state, as I said, for a long period of time. Caffeine has also been shown that it can help to decrease pain, and then also studies have found that having caffeine 1 hour prior to exercise has significant benefits. So having said this, we have to think about certain factors, like having a coffee right before you go to the gym or exercising for performance isn't really going to help. As I said, an hour is the ideal amount of time you should wait. So, maybe at least 45 minutes, at least in half an hour. Any less time than that, you're probably not going to see the benefits from caffeine. If you wait too long, say more than 2 hours, you're probably not going to see the benefits of caffeine either. So also another thing is that making sure that you do not have caffeine to replace sleep. I know it's a very tempting solution, but you're going to see a bunch of things that can go wrong when you do that. So for example, it increases our chance for injury, and you wouldn't want to injure yourself over something so trivial as, I could have just slept for 9 hours last night instead of 6, something like that. I know I'm oversimplifying it, but make sure you're having caffeine just to give yourself a little boost rather than replacing sleep. And not just having caffeine for the sake of it. And also, if you aren't someone who has caffeine regularly in your diet, like if you aren't a coffee or tea drinker and someone that doesn't eat chocolate very often, I wouldn't say just go start drinking coffee because it's going to increase your performance. It probably isn't. It's probably going to give you just anxiety and a massive heart rate increase. So, don't do that. Don't do anything extreme. But yeah, studies have also shown that having a carbohydrate meal 2 hours prior to exercise, and then in addition having a caffeine 1 hour prior to exercise, can also help your rate of perceived exertion by decreasing it. So we also have to think about caffeine's effect on sleep and how that can impact on performance. So don't have caffeine for about 5 hours prior to bedtime. That's generally what scientists say is how long it takes for caffeine to completely leave your system. However, personally, I don't like to have caffeine after 4 p.m. and I don't go to bed until, I'd say I go to sleep anywhere between 10 and 11. I aim for 10:30 though most nights. So even though our bodies can get used to caffeine, it's even if you're someone that regularly consumes large amounts of caffeine, it's not a great idea to have caffeine after 5 p.m. But just because it can really impact on your sleep. We want to, when we are recovering, we want to recover as best as we can. And if caffeine is going to impact on sleep, then we aren't recovering as best as we can. But yeah, that's that on caffeine. And now I want to move on to part 2, which is during exercise. So there's not much we can do during exercise in terms of eating. Like, we're not going to have a 3-course meal during our weightlifting sessions. That's silly. But what experts say is that you shouldn't really be eating unless you're training for more than 2 hours. So if you are going to eat food during those 2 hours, they have to be high GI, meaning high glycemic index, so the body can quickly absorb the nutrients, well, not nutrients, carbohydrates really, and sugars really quickly and convert them into energy. So foods like white bread honey sandwiches, what else? We've got the gels that you see like cyclists use, but they also litter them, so don't do that. I often see just people just ripping the gel packets and throwing them onto the road. That's not good. That's bad for the turtles. Sorry, completely random. What's another food that you can have? Banana, stuff like that. Is something good if you're going to be something good to have if you're training for more than 2 hours. Even if you're not training, if you're just going for a really, really long walk or hike, that by the end of it you're going to be pretty gassed, feeling pretty tired, I would recommend eating something if you're going to be training if you're going to be being physically active for more than 2 hours, just because you're going to feel really, really tired after that. Also, the endurance, going back to endurance exercising, as we know, we have 2 hours worth of carbs in our body that we can rely on for fuel. If we're going to train for more than 2 hours, we're probably going to deplete them, and what we want to do is we want to avoid using fats as fuel as often as we can if we haven't got a well-trained system that metabolizes fats well. So that's, again, leading back to what I said before, is training fasted so that we can use our fats readily and efficiently. So now I want to move on to post-exercise. So looking at things like protein, carbs, even turmeric. So talking about protein, so eating a good source of protein within 30 minutes, ideally 20 minutes. Any more than that, you're not going to see the benefits as much. So let me collect my thoughts, sorry. After exercising, it will help with recovery immensely. However, consuming carbohydrates with your protein after exercise can help your body even more with the absorption of protein. The reason behind this is that when we eat carbohydrates, our body releases insulin, which is a hormone that helps us metabolize/break down carbohydrates. So insulin helps us absorb amino acids too, and amino acids, as we probably know, make up protein. And so it's also important that these are nutritionally dense forms of protein and carbohydrates, so not stuff like lollies, snakes, and what's a bad source of protein? I don't know. Cheeseburger. I don't know. But eat that if you want to. But for, optimum recovery, we want to eat lean forms of protein like kangaroo, chicken, turkey. I don't know what type of protein you eat. Tofu, for example. And also the carbohydrates, they can include like stuff like brown rice, quinoa, beans, lentils. What else have we got? Greens, stuff like that. Having said that, I'm not saying eat a plate of chicken and brown rice and call that nutrition, because that's boring as frick. I wouldn't recommend doing that. But I'm saying eat foods that are nutritionally dense and also you like, basically. And that is how you're going to recover best, because the quicker we get nutrients into our bodies, the better we're going to recover. 1 + 1 = 2, as I say. And now I want to talk about turmeric. So, okay, there is more research that needs to go into this. So studies have shown that an anti-inflammatory food, can help with recovery and training adaptations. So foods like turmeric, I don't know, would you call turmeric a food? Spice? I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So training adaptations or health and performance improvements caused by training. However, these studies didn't record what time in relation to training that turmeric was consumed. So, for example, the studies looked at eating turmeric in general, and that improved training, but they didn't say within 20 minutes like they did, like people do for protein. They just said turmeric helps with inflammation, basically. So that's something that's really interesting, and I think a lot of work needs to go into it, but a lot of work has already gone into it. So yeah, super interesting and cool. Yeah. Lastly, what I want to talk about is beet juice. I don't know if you've heard of it. So it's basically just beetroot juice. So what it does is it raises our nitric oxide levels in the body, and which helps with blood flow and muscle contractions. There is a bit of debate over this, whether it does actually help, if it's complete nonsense. Personally, I don't like the idea of consuming beetroot juice. I think it sounds kind of gross. Yeah, that's just my opinion though. If you're looking to maybe potentially increase your aerobic capacity, maybe you could try having beetroot juice, trialing it before and after training, see if it does help with your training. I think it would have minimal effects towards it from what the research is showing, but it could be worth a try. I'm not one to say that placebos don't work, because even if it is a placebo for you or for anyone, I think it's worth doing, because, whatever it takes to get the best performance out of yourself and others. So that's what I think about beetroot juice. And yeah, now let's move on to question of the week. So question of the week was on a comment on my last video, which was, while trying to put on muscle, let me try and get that again. While trying to put on muscle on centralized around a cardiovascular workout regime, would supersetting or circuit training be more effective? So yeah, what they're saying is basically, I want to put on muscle, but I also want to train cardio. Would it be more effective for me to do supersetting or circuit training? So, couple components to this. First of all, awesome work that you wanting to train cardio, because a lot of people who try to put on muscle think that cardio is going to be the end of the world and it's going to not help them with putting on muscle. Well, I think that cardio is a massive factor of any training program, particularly because when we do train our muscles in strength training, we've got a byproduct called lactic acid, which has hydrogen ions in it. The hydrogen ions impact the pH of the acidity of our muscles. So that's why when you're training, you'll feel that burning sensation, and you'll say, oh, that's lactic acid. No, it's actually the hydrogen ion buildup in your muscles. It's causing that burning pain. So what happens when we train our cardio is our body pumps blood more efficiently and better around our body. So if we've got blood pumping better, that means that we've got more waste removal. It also means that we've got more oxygen going towards our muscles, which can help decrease the chances of lactic acid buildup and therefore hydrogen ion buildup. So yeah, that's that little tidbit. Supersetting or circuit training. So supersetting will help more so with strength training. However, it's how you formulate it really, because circuit training, you can sort of lean it towards being better for strength training, or you can lean it towards being better for power or flexibility. Like you can sort of do whatever. So what I think, I'm going to answer this question with something else, sorry. So I think both are great. I think it's how you program it. So yeah, cardio is great. Supersetting or circuit training, both or either, whatever you prefer, whatever gets it done. I personally like to separate my cardio and my strength sessions, because then I know that I know my why for my session, if that makes sense. So I know what I'm doing going into that session and what I'm going to come out from that session. So when I go for a run, I know I'm going into my run knowing, yep, this is what I want to train and this is how I'm going to do it. Same with strength. I know when I'm going into the gym to train strength or to train power, I'm going in to do that. And I think it's how you formulate a like what exercises and how many reps and sets you put in compared to if it's supersetting or circuit training. Because that's so bad. Yikes. So we know that, for example, to train for muscle, like hypertrophy, so increasing the muscle size, we want around 3 to 6 reps and a heavy weight. But then if we want to increase strength, we want, 6 to 8 reps and not as heavy weight, but still substantially hefty. That's what I think is more important rather than the style of how you go about it, if that makes sense. So but good on you for doing your cardio. I know not everyone likes it, particularly those who like training strength. I'm calling out myself. But awesome question, and keep them coming through. I really, really appreciate them. And thank you so, so much for listening today. I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so, so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. And time for disclaimers. So please chuck us a follow on Instagram at fitness_explain_by_mil, or just fitness explain for short. I am working on getting us onto Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all other podcast streaming services. However, it's just a matter of time. If I have used any references, which I most likely have, it will be in the show notes / description bar below. If you could please like, follow and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Also, take a screenshot and put it on your socials and tag us. I'd also really appreciate that. Also, this podcast is a platform that's general in nature and not tailored to your specific needs. If you are struggling with your mental or physical health and well-being, please seek help from a medical professional such as a registered psychologist, registered and qualified dietitian, registered GP, registered exercise scientist, or physiologist. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.